If you are a business and you realize my audience listens to podcasts, which you can do with some demographic research, then why wouldn't you make a podcast? I think one of the misconceptions behind making the podcast is it's going to be a lot more work than like a regular video is. But you should ask yourself the question: is it better to do a podcast just straight up and focus on that as the main factor of our video strategy? Because I think people forget that podcasts can be video as well. They're not just audio.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, the podcast, quote unquote, podcast that I listen to and watch, and I say watch because I watch most of it on YouTube, is a sports podcast that I put on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings with my husband. We have it on YouTube as we're getting ready. We can listen, we watch, and then finish it because it's like an hour and a half long show.
Hmm.
Finish it in the car on the way to the gym in the afternoon. It has become the only true appointment viewing that we have in our house, and it's podcast.
Wow. What a
So
shift too, because I feel like back in the day it used to be you'd watch the news or you'd watch whatever sports channel on TV, and now it's a podcast. And it's so true because I do that too. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, and I watch Joe Rogan, but I watch his video podcast. I don't really listen to his podcast. I watch it on YouTube. That's sort of my fascination and the guests he has on, but I do the same thing. So it's
yeah,
definitely the new normal.
yes. So if you're thinking, oh, podcast, like how does that work within this strategy? It can be your primary video strategy.
Okay.
And the customers who or the clients I'm currently working with, the goal is we're going to do Big Five, and we're going to address these topics in podcast format. Because if you think about the original way we were teaching Big Five back when, Marcus was writing articles, a lot of our case studies were writing articles. The most important part, or one of the most important parts of that article creation process, was the content manager would interview subject matter experts on whatever the topic was, Big Five topic was. How is that different than a podcast?
It's really not. The difference is you get to hear the Q&A back and forth in real time versus somebody being off camera and having some graphics or some segments that basically trim those questions out and only have the answers. So it's just a
And
different format, but still the same principles, it sounds like.
and for you, like you listening to a lot of Rogan, he has a lot of experts on from different fields.
Yeah.
What is the value for you in hearing that long form conversation directly from the expert versus reading it on paper?
Well, I definitely have ADD, so I think that helps a lot. But aside from my attention issues, no, seriously, there's something about the way that it's conversational, and Joe will ask a question or whoever it's just so relaxed that you almost feel like you're in the room with the people, and that makes it feel more real to me, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. It just feels like I'm part of the conversation instead of being spoken to or told what to think or do or say.
Yeah. And if you have someone who is asking really good questions and you can tell the person is comfortable with them, then it feels like a more authentic conversation you would hear on the street. And that combines the like everything we talk about with endless customers, the
Hmm.
authenticity, the honest answer to a question, the different layers of answering a question. Because if you're answering the question, how much does X cost? Well, at X cost X, Y, and Z, but there are factors. Imagine if that was a conversation.
Right. That'd be
It's
so cool.
a very different thing. Or the podcast I was reviewing for a customer right before I hopped on here. The episode is public, private, or hybrid cloud, choosing the right one for you.
Wow. Very cool.
Comparison right there,
Yeah.
discussing that comparison in real time with an expert. So it's taking one step from a content creation process that has existed for years and just changing it to a recorded conversation that can be published.
It makes total
So we're
sense.
thinking about answering the question of, well, how are we actually going to do this? It's like a whole new thing. It's like, it's really not a new thing. You've been doing it. If you've been writing content, you have the process of someone interviewing you and then translating that to something else. You just take that interview, and it doesn't have to be a fancy setup right away. I think that's one of the things that people get hung up on is they have to have a setup that looks just like Endless Customers, or they have to have a setup that looks like Pardon My Take setup in the Barstool Sports office in Chicago, or they have to have a
Right.
setup like Rogan. You don't need that setup.
Hmm.
It can be simple. It can be just getting started on a Zoom call. Like I'm on a Zoom call right now. There's nothing fancy over here. It's just me on my laptop in my home office talking to you guys.
Right.
There should be no barrier to entry for anyone trying to do a podcast.
And you can always build off of it.